welcome everybody. This is Jack Miller over at T360. Welcome you to another Fireside Friday chat. We are super excited about today's call. This is going to be great. I have with me this week Kelly White, one of our executives, and she currently runs our talent initiatives under T3 Talent. So Kelly, as usual, we're glad to have you, and we're going to have a great call today. And then our special privilege is to be able to bring Gretchen Pearson, who's a legend in the real estate industry and has done some amazing work in her last 35 years, running now Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Drysdale Properies out in California. And Gretchen, welcome. We're delighted to have you. We were having such a great conversation as we were getting ready to go in here. I always want to just jump right back in. I do want to ask you, where are you calling in from today? You're in a lovely setting. It looks like you're out in your backyard.
Well, I'm very literal, and so when Kelly invited me to a fireside chat, so I'm in Northern California, and you look across this way, there's a nice fire, and you look out this way, and so I'm at my home, my main residence in San Ramon, California, and where I've raised my kids, and first time outside in the backyard, really, for the last few days. It's not been very good up here.
And you are seeing, there's a lot, you were telling us a little bit, but I'd love to share with the group, like what's going on in Northern California. It sounds like there's a lot of fires up there right now.
Yeah, and so far, like I said, we're somewhat focusing on the blessings to it in the way we've had, awful fires throughout many communities, Southern and Northern California, but Northern California the last few years, and they've been these sweeping fires that have just taken out full communities and all. And this little fire season, which is early also for us, it's due to the heat that we're having, they're just all over. And so far we've had some loss, but so far they've just been these just millions of fires all over, threatening people and approaching, and it's been hotter than heck. And so Cal Fire is just doing their best, but it's different that way because there's fires everywhere, and the ash is on the ground. We haven't really had that before, unless you were really in proximity to some of the other ones. So,
Well, hopefully you're able to avoid the fires and stay safe, and your staff and the rest of your team can get to safety if they need to. I know we have at least one team member who's in Northern California, and we've been watching him. Bags are packed. He's been ready to leave at any moment. So hopefully everybody that you're connected to out there can stay safe.
Thank you.
So,
that's everyone. We're starting to try to get communication out as we've got needs and stuff. And so the real estate community's always responded, and we'll figure out how and what, but holding breath right now.
Wonderful. Well, we usually want to start with just getting to know a little bit about your background and your leadership story. And that's something that, I've read your story. There's parts of it on your website, and, Chris, who's our marketing director here, did some research. And so we always feel like the people we invite on, we know kind of a little bit, but I'd love to hear your story and, talk to us about how you got into real estate and kind of your perspective on the industry, because you've been doing this for a while and have a lot of accomplishments in the space.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I didn't know I was going to, but I have spent really my whole adult life inside the real estate industry. I graduated school with a marketing degree at Sacramento State. I always give a shout out because we always get a little tease, so go Hornets. And it was a good development. I'm from Southern California, and met my husband, who we've been married now for 35 years or something. I don't remember, but we moved to the Bay, and I ended up with a real estate company, Urban Pacific Properties, and I was 22 years old. And I was helping, it was actually an early company of Pacific Union. And they owned a lot of 880 Section 8 units, senior housing. And so I was the low man on the pole, had no idea or anything, but I was administrating the government regulations to receive that government checks on a monthly basis and recording it. And I was just I on the first of the month, the mailman would come with 2 bags of checks, and it was the government money. And I had never really had an experience. My dad was not into real estate. I hadn't seen that. I hadn't been exposed really to owning real estate. And that was my exposure. And I just went, I got to get me some. And so I went and got my real estate principal's license. It's in the days where you pretty much did it at community college. So I went to another fine establishment, Chabot Community College, and got my real estate license at night. And from there I went to leasing, and then was really awful at it, awful, and got pregnant to get out of that one. And I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. And it turned out that stay-at-home mom is actually even kind of harder than real estate even. So I went into, the plan was instead of messing around and murdering my husband and my newborn baby, we went to Century 21 Parker and Associates to sell residential real estate part-time mom, part-time agent, and make a little bit of extra dough to the household to buy investment properties. And that was the plan. And had a grand time. The influence, Parker and Associates, this kind of rolls, Chris, to one of your questions. It was owned by a woman, Loretta Parker. And that was, I didn't know a difference, and I didn't choose that for that or anything, but I do, in looking back, do think that that really very much established kind of the feeling I wanted when I finally opened my own office. Just felt right, you know, magical office. And maybe that sounds girly to talk about feelings, but I'm a girl.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So from there, you know, I actually was okay at sales. I'm bossy. So I got moved into different management positions pretty early on, and was then just really kind of blessed with a few people noticing me and giving me opportunities up through my real estate career. And so I moved into management. I moved into recruiting and coaching the newer agents, and then into branch management. I thought I was really quite a big deal. I think I was touted for many years that I was Prudential, and this is corporate Prudential back in the day. I mean, long time ago day, their youngest branch manager. And I was so impressed with myself, I remember. So so that was kind of some of my first start with things. And then Dave Cobo and Ed Kraftchow gave me a real nice opportunity. I had moved over, and I was managing for them and working on their mortgage and title as Mason McDuffie. And I think it was in 98, I became COO of Mason McDuffie. And I had, man, oh man, were they dumb. I mean, I was still so young in the business, and they gave me a lot of opportunity and responsibility, and I got to grow up pretty fast. So did that for quite a while. And then 2005, I found myself really wanting to own. It was the only thing I hadn't done. And so I went out and opened my own brokerage in 2005, and we've been doing it since, and having a good old time.
That's awesome. That's you meet a lot of people in this industry, and not everybody, like, you know, you just got into it very young, decided you liked it, stuck around, built a career. So it's, you know, most of the industry doesn't look like that. It's a lot of people join later in life or come to it through family connection or something like that. So that's remarkable. So I know one of the things we're doing with this series is trying to understand how women's roles and, you know, leadership positions, kind of the challenges there, the opportunities there. And, you know, I'm interested to hear about what you think of that topic. Like, what are the challenges? What are the opportunities? What do you see as the landscape for women leaders right now, and what's changed, or has it changed, or, you know, what does it look like today?
I think that's why I stayed in the business, and what my love is that I think that the opportunities far outweigh the challenges. And, you know, I'll express kind of where I think, you know, where we could help each other and across to it. But the opportunities, if you think about it from real estate, whether you're talking about the glass ceiling, and I have experience, you know, being multiple times, we all have, in a boardroom, if we're talking about, you know, C-level, and being, you know, not treated in the same way. And that's fine. And we're all, that's normal. I mean, that's what it is. But you can't, I mean, in this business, so there really isn't a ceiling. You can't take your license. You can get a broker's license. And now as we've looked through the years, there's so many opportunities where leadership doesn't have to be, you know, risking at a brokerage level. It could. It doesn't have to be necessarily management at a C level. And so, you know, we've got some women that are running some really dynamic teams and being able to demonstrate leadership and results, you know, tied to it, real effective stuff. So, you know, and I think that, so again, you talk about the opportunities inside for leadership as well, in way of, if you want to talk about leadership and production, you think there is no other business. I have 3 kids and I raised them. Remember, I started when I was 22. Now they're quite a bit older now, but I raised all 3 of them. And I will tell you, really did not have the mommy guilt while you're sitting in it. But if I look back, I did not miss any bit of a opportunity either to be there with them or to serve, to do my part for the community. I was soccer coach every single year. I was a Girl Scout leader. I was room mom, recess mom, and it did not affect my business. It's, you know, you just were able to manage your schedule. And so those opportunities inside this business, and that's why my passion is so much, you know, for it. You can control it. Now, the challenges of this business, and it seems very ironic that you're asking me, because the biggest challenges is the exposure to women in these situations, because most of the panels, when you look at forever, I will tell you, and I really do not want to, you know, you guys are the gift horse that have come and asked me for this opportunity, but I will tell you, I've got 34 years in the business. I've got a resume that's done a few things, whether in the past or whether like our growth rate now or some of the really inventive things we're doing now. But the last 6 panels I've been asked on have been about how to be a woman in real estate leadership. I'd like to talk about the stuff I was yabbing at you beforehand, you know, the real stuff.
Yeah. Well, we definitely are going to do that, because you have some great stuff to share. So we definitely want to do that. I don't want to sidebar.
So it's perfect to it, because that's what I would ask, and vice versa. You know, utilize not just from you guys with a beautiful platform and a respected platform, but there's, you know, you can network even locally. And if we're talking, you know, the audience is mixed in here. I know it is, but if I'm speaking to female piece to other female leaders, you know, if it's a choice, everybody's equal. You know, this time pick a woman. Let's try to have that woman come in and present something or share an idea. But if you still look, the panels are still, you know, heavily weighed on male, whatever the topic is. And so if we got more exposure, I think that some of the questions of, you know, is there a difference? What does it feel like? I think it will be really clear, because we'll be able to express where we see and what is different. So thanks for asking. Like I said, I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. Here you guys are the ones asking. And I went,
well, it is one of those things. I mean, I think the same way, because I grew up, was raised by a single mom, and was raised in a very ethnically diverse community. And so I'm always disappointed when we need to call it out and say, hey, can you talk about being a blank, whatever it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Wherever you are, right? Where it's really the conversation is, let's talk about real estate, you know, and let's just make sure we have people that are doing real estate and have something to say there, right? Because that's right. Actually
that's right. That's right. I also, by the way, I do appreciate you bringing it up to the light, because I'm going to count back. So let's say, so it's the last time that it's happened to me, but it still seems like in recent history, not so much with pandemic, but it's 10 years ago where I'm at same level, a partnership meeting of a company. I'm the only female, and I'm asked to go get the coffee.
Yeah.
So the problem is they didn't know how clumsy I am.
They never ask that again.
Yeah, you do it, you dump it on their lap one time and that's it.
That's
Never gonna
about
happen
the last
again.
time that happened. And hey, listen, I'm up about team playing and sharing and all of it, but you know, got to that was a play. That was a conscious play, and that's the stuff that's got to stop. We have enough misstepping because of what's ingrained in us of how we've been brought up, and you know, comments and all that. You know, the conscious stuff's got to stop, and we've got to try to figure out how to help each other. That's woman on woman stuff too, man.
Yeah, it's cultural. It's broad based.
Cultural, yeah,
Totally.
Yeah,
background.
yeah.
It's background.
Well, I'd love to shift gears and ask a question of Gretchen, which is, I noticed in just reading your bio that when you started your brokerage that you had a motto of "we help people get what they want," which number one, I loved. I thought that was an incredible thing to think about. And I'm sure you have thinking behind that. But what I noticed with your background is just your ability to grow organizations. And you know, you've been named one of the top 50 most influential businesswomen in the Bay Area. You have accolades. And so tell us more about how you've grown the businesses, what you've encountered, what trends you're seeing now. Speak to us about the shiny objects. You know, tell us more about how you did that. And I'd love to know.
Well, wow, that's a lot. Thank you.
That's a lot. I know.
Where do you want me to start on that?
Tell us everything.
Tell you everything. Well, yeah, sure. I mean, gosh, you ended with shiny objects. Don't have me go there. Pre and post pandemic on stuff. I mean, truly, where do you want me to start on stuff? Because I'll pull out 4 or 5.
Kelly and I work with a lot of leaders and organizations, and I know that she and I both have a deep appreciation for organization builders, for people that, you know, can get. Because this is a weird industry. It's not an employee-driven industry so much. You have to have some really great skills at convincing people that don't have to follow you, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us about that. I mean, that's something. You've got a lot of followers. You got a lot of people that have said, "Hey, I'm signing up with Gretchen."
I have what I call them. I collect interesting characters, and I have a lot of interesting characters in my life, and I love every one of them. But, you know, the first bit of growth really, I mean, and if you talk about over the career, yes, I was always why I got the opportunities at Mason McDuffie and all. I was a top recruiter and all to it. You know, the growth of my company over the last 17 years, which has been, you know, pretty phenomenal. I didn't really set out with that really as any of the objective. I got caught with 2006, 7, 8, 9. And I was before then just happily, merrily, dumbly, you know, leveraging out. I had 5 offices at the time. I think maybe 30 agents. You think that's too much space? I don't know. You know, and just we all were, you know, in 2005 and 2006. And so, you know, thank God, you know, when bad stuff happens, I've been known to say it's the ugliest wrapped package you'll ever find. And that time frame, although a lot of people, you know, I know suffered and had a lot of loss, for our little company, it was the best thing ever. Just like I see with this pandemic, because everything in 2005, if you were in it or no, it was so hunky-dory for everyone. It was hunky-dory. And it was so concretized that my little flower, I was getting capped. And the folks that wanted to be with me, although we were being innovative, it was capped. No one wanted to move to join it. It was too hunky-dory. So we then, you know, once then everything I was then leveraged out, then I said, holy heck, you know, I got to grow fast to keep my little dream alive is really what I did. And we went into M&A. And so I did a lot of the mergers and acquisitions. I think we've done now in 17 years, like 30 different mergers or acquisitions. And that's, you know, that's looking good for the highlights. That could include a 4-person walkover. But, you know, we've also done 300, and we've done, you know, a couple of years ago, we were blessed to enter into Marin, and up in Sonoma County, a company up there had problems, a fine established company. And, you know, we were up there swinging against, you know, Big Bucks Compass and Caldwell Banker, and I had 0 market share up there, and we ended up with a lovely, about 270 lovely experienced agents chose us. over all of that. And I wasn't, wasn't really sitting throwing cash at it. And so, I think when you talk about what's been some of the secret to it, there are a lot of shiny objects, but I've got, and we've got the folks that are looking to be with us have a core competency of real estate. It's a pro. Whether they're newer, we have a lot of young talent that's joined us, but they get that it's service. They get that it's still work. You've got to be disciplined, and you've got to show up, and you've got to have the right mindset. And I think that's kind of what the following is. I care about every one of these guys that are with me, and folks even that, what I say have come, broke my heart, and someday will be back with me because there'll be a restraining order otherwise. But it breaks my heart when people leave, and I do understand they've got to try other things, but you're just trying to serve them on where they want to go. And that's what we've got. And I said, I just can't even believe some of these interesting characters that I have in my life. They're just, that's why I'm in the business, really, or at least in the brokerage side of it, is the learning and the experience with all these people.
Gotcha.
That's a great note on how to think about when you hit a challenging time. That was an enormous opportunity for your company.
Yeah. Well, I see that now. You look, and it seemed, everything seems so long ago to it, but I did a very scary, I got all formal and everything. I had written notes, and I say that in the way of I was addressing my group, my managers. So it was internal, and we're much more informal. They're my family, we're family. Mm-hmm. And so, but I had gotten myself very nervous because of the messaging or the impact. Maybe it wasn't the messaging, but the impact of where I want to go. And, if you look at right now in the industry, the agents, whether they're new or experienced to it in a lot of regards, they are getting tired of shiny. Even if there is some huge, which there really isn't, some huge differential in the technology that's out there, there's still a gapping in getting them to use it, and that human element and all. And so, the folks that are understanding, they may believe in that, but they need some steps in between. And since we're core competence of the business, I'm a realtor. So I can take a look at different things, and we build a bridge in there. We've learned, the only way stuff's going to get really utilized at agents is matching workflows that they have, right? It's very difficult lots of times to change their workflows. And you can a little bit, you can adjust, but try to map towards, where they're going. But, if we're talking about the company and the growth to it, and what I've learned, or the rest of the pivoting, is I've learned agents that what's valuable, you can watch what's valuable, and, space is less and less. It has been. Location is old fashioned. It truly is, to think that way. We have for years in our industry had great trainers outside the industry that have taught us, sphere and working referrals. Well, that's not necessarily, the old geographic farm, right? It's not neighbor to neighbor, right? It's, you've got somebody in Atherton, you got somebody in Oakland, you got somebody in Tracy, and so that whole business, the location, yes, to be able to reach folks. But what we tried to look to do is that my managers, I hate the name of that doesn't cause much growth. If I were a top agent, I don't want to go work for a manager.
Right.
I don't want to be managed.
Right.
Right. First of all, is any top hitter managed? No. Shout out to my hitters. Love ya. Shout out. Yeah, no. And so what is it, and we did a couple really nice experiments. So I was very worried when the pandemic first hit about my new talent that had come 3 years or less, that was getting it done. I thought, oh my God, they're just getting it there, and what's going to happen. And we put together a program where it was a internship basically. And we offered them a monthly stipend. Their agreement was they had to get into this intense accountability group. We provided them a couple of other tools that are high active prospecting tools, a Red X and the follow-up, and we reduced fees. We did this whole thing because what we know is when agents are newer and they start to pull out, this is pre-pandemic, they go get a side gig, right? So it doesn't take a whole bunch of money to keep them, in it. And so we took our top 30 and offered this package for them. And the first 6 people that responded to this invite, we were putting it together really fast and all to it. They said, you don't need to pay us. We just want the coaching. And it ended up out of 30, I think we're getting a white paper done on it, but a little less than a third just said, I just want the coaching. And we are not providing the coaching to the industry, to the agents. And how do I know it is that over all the years, you know what the agents want by what they're paying for.
Right.
And the amount of coaching.
So much.
So true.
So much.
Yeah. So immediately it's in the same way. Okay, if I can reduce space, where can I reallocate that money? That's something that the agents are going to like and we can mutually benefit. So we've started doing coaching, reimbursing for coaching. I know that may not be novel for a bunch, but of our size. And certainly with Zoom, we're able to do that, So we've changed. Our managers are called now business consultants or coaches. And their full responsibility, they have zero responsibility on, I'll take that back, probably tertiary responsibility on outside growth. Their primary responsibility is all inside growth and coaching and providing exactly what it is, being a conduit to all the resources that are out there that, that's the other thing. You talk to agents and companies have all these shiny objects, but they have almost too many, where do I start? So we've tried to focus and change that. We made a compliance department. And so we're delivering a higher level of compliance, a couple more levels of service on our files, because we've just pivoted really the roles of everyone in the company. And we did that from the pandemic standpoint and following really what the agents are telling us is valuable. So it's exciting. Yeah,
that's a powerful observation for any broker owner or person running a team here about what, how to look at what to value. It is.
Right.
Well, one of the things we're finding, part of the problem, brokerages are not entirely financially healthy. And part of it is, the redundancy or not using highest and best use. And by the way, that's a whole nother subject, Kelly, you can write me down for another one with the highest and best use in our industry on looking at it. But if you think about it, we've noticed that and watched it. And we set up originally 17 years ago to be really a back-end partner for our agents. Or I think it was in 1989, CAR did an article about this woman that had an escrow coordination in-house service, and so we've been a part of all that, trying to get highest and best use of people doing it. But if you look at our industry, and the agents have even gotten that by buyer's agents and teams with different focuses and stuff. But if you look as a whole, the managers, typical managers in our industry, we would love them to be, A+ or fabulous at everything, but think about what we really expect them to do. We want them to recruit. We want them to manage. Those are two different personalities.
Totally.
We want them to coach. We want them to train. Those are two different things. We want them to be good at legal. We want them to be good at technology, right? And then they're probably, and I hate to say it, it's embarrassing, but they're probably as a group, the lowest paid spigot in our little system. And so, and we count on all this on them, and how that's a unicorn, to find someone that's an A+ at all of those things. That's a unicorn. And so if we can rotate and get everyone highlighted at what they're really good at, I got managers that are super good at that compliance piece. So let's slather it up over there, right? And I've got the other people that are coaches on it. Let's slather up everyone there, and everyone's getting a higher level of service out to then be able to deliver a higher level of service. But it's exciting.
Yeah. And then your managers or your business coaches are happy too, and they're more productive because they're basically using the strengths and everything they love to do versus feeling like they never can succeed at whatever that is. And so doing it that way just makes so much sense. So
you're so right, Kelly. And everything then, when I finally said it to them, like when I had this formal meeting, because these guys love me and do anything for the company, love the agents and all to it. And, every month prior to this for 7 years, you put up recruiting numbers or you put up, some number, and somebody's not feeling good. And that's not who they are. That's not what they're about. They're full on, let me be full on contributors. And I just needed to move the seats on the bus a little bit. But you've hit it on the nail on the head. I have more joy coming out of that management group, which, then just is infectious.
You keep the agents happy, and yet it's just not a one size fit all. And as that role has evolved over time with more technology and more demands and all that, like to your point, it's an impossible role to do all those things, because you're just not even, the right behavior can't do all those things.
Right.
So that's brilliant.
Yeah, so that's we're getting there, and different parts, can pivot differently. And when I was first saying this, it was like, you got to also remember language to it, right? And I'm also having to deliver this by Zoom. But, I had at first when I said, well, you guys aren't going to be managers anymore. You're going to be business consultants. Well, they thought I was trying to get away from salaries. They're like,
you're all fired. I'm bringing you back on as an independent contractor.
I'm being sincere. It was a scary time. And I didn't know that that's how it was interpreted, because this is pandemic time, and I'm like, look, guys, let's apply our resource. And by the way, that would be the last piece about the growth and the resources is that, and another soapbox for me too, but one of the things that we're really looking at is, the other financial woes for the brokers, we've done it to ourselves. And it's in the way of the amount of wasted resource on people we know, like at a 98% chance, ain't gonna make it at this time and place in their life. Now, it doesn't mean later or any of it. And whether you're talking about, to the really hyper little, a cup of coffee, or the electricity when they're hanging out, or more to the fact of the valuable time of my hitters, my staff, my managers. And, I know this in the way of, I always say this because people say, well, do you want to raise the bar to get up in? I don't want to raise the bar, the first bar. I want to raise the second bar. I want to drop the time frame of when the license renewal is. And I want to make some of, believe it or not, sounds old fashioned from an old lady, want to make some of the classes to be in person. It determines a commitment level on both sides to it. And it also quickly screens out. But beyond that, even as they come out, so I don't want to do that. But what I do know in talking to a lot of agents that have dreams of this business, or wannabe agents that have dreams, I can't tell in an hour interview. And if I do too often, then I'm losing really the benefit and the American dream of this business, because anybody can make it in this business. And so I've seen silver spoon folks with a sphere list where you think, oh my goodness, and can't get out of a wet paper bag. And I have had other folks where I'm thinking, I don't speak Mandarin, how am I going to teach them the license, the contract and all? How are we going to do this? And today one of the top hitters in the area, right? And so you can't, but within a week you can tell it about 95%. And what we need to do is the right thing, the human thing, the thing that's right for everybody, and try to get a screening out much quicker as brokers. And I don't want to speak for anyone else, they all make their own decision, but that's what we're going to look to do at this, because there's millions of dollars again of resources that are wasted that could be reallocated towards winning pieces to it, right? But we still,
it's not fair for the agents that are, the people that are trying this out as a career,
or the consumer
Yeah. It's not just the broker's resources. It's, the new agent resources. It's their, the first few transactions they do where they're not.
It's not even that, you guys. It's worse than that, because that means they are starting to go. And I would think that there's going to get some training. We're talking about there is millions I don't know. I'm just making up millions, but there's a lot of people.
The big number.
It's just a loaded gun that's laying around. They don't do any sales so much to it. And or they just have no idea of what it takes. And so they give you that, you'll tell them, you'll hire them, they're all good to go. And you're like, okay, well, 9 a.m. tomorrow, we need you to show up to meet with Stan. He's going to walk you through the papers. I'd like you to know this is your first day on job. You should take it seriously, and the dress and all. And, 9:20, we roll in with cargo shorts, and it's like, okay, we got to go. First strike.
Yeah.
Listen, you don't understand. because, you know, that's just not gonna, it's not gonna cut it. That level to the consumer, to, you know, to the real pros in this business is like, eat you for breakfast. Don't even, I mean, we've made it look too easy.
Yeah.
We really have.
And
too much television, too much like, oh, this is a problem.
Verisimilitude.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I did want to give a little bit of time for a question we have been asking everybody that comes on these calls, which I think Kelly and I we're both students of leadership. We love to learn from leaders about what you think, and I think we're seeing it. So I think we're seeing it, but what your leadership gift is, what you believe it is, what you have brought to the organization. I think you've been demonstrating a lot of leadership gifts today, but how would you describe your leadership gift?
Well, this is a poke to all my 50-plus-year-old girlfriends and all to it, but this is really my hair color. we're like, everyone's stressing with the no color, no hair deal. So I will tell you, at least for me, what they say about fiery redheads is true. I'm all in, you know, and I've had being a redhead, and not like, you know, I'm not looking for pity on it. I don't want a separated class, a protected class, but you come up as an underdog.
Yeah.
You come up as an underdog. And so I think that underdog fight and that ability, most people in the world are underdogs.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no guarantees. They're not, you know, you're going to have to fight for what you get.
That's it, you know, and, or overlooked at something. And, but it is, there's, so I think that the piece is there's a passion. If someone's willing to go for it for whatever reason, I'm all in. I've had to learn over the years, like I said, in this business, that I can't be more in than them. And that's, you know, that's happens.
So true.
Happens with this industry a lot. But so, you know, and that's okay. I think that's, you know, when that happens, or that, you know, that's my heart that gets a little nick, and my heart can stand it. It's okay. So.
Yeah. Well, your passion for the business is evident. I mean, it's come through. Yeah. Like everything. And also how you're willing to talk about things that other people don't talk about, and to say, look, we really shouldn't be doing this, even on this call and in our prior conversation. It's like, I think that that's a leadership skill in and of itself, of being able to address those things head on. So
true.
Terrific.
I mean, that's where we need to be the real, you know, those of us, we need the other changes, and the VC money has brought some interesting conversations, and certainly has been a stir for us to look inside. But the real changes, it has to be an inside job. It has to be us with the core competency that know how the business, not saying like the thing we always say, it's always been that way, but knowing, you know, it's not going to cliff. It hasn't. You know, if it was in a cliff, we've got this morphine on it, but we've got all elements that we've got to look at, and we've got to look at quickly. I mean, from the mortgage side of it, that affordability, we've got to be open for some other models. We've got to, you know, through this pandemic as an industry, what I'd say is that we're growing out of a cottage industry into, you know, a real deal. And that's kind of what's faced right now for whether it's an agent or for a brokerage. And it's good. It's good for the industry.
And that's the premise. I mean, when Stefan and I first started talking about building T360 as it's becoming, we're not a finished thing. We got a lot more runway too. That was the premise, is that, you know, he's been watching the industry for a long time now. I've been writing a lot of books about it. And he said, you know, this is a cottage industry that is professionalizing. It's starting to use technology more. It's starting to get better standards. We're bringing in, you know, outside business people to help us, you know, invest in capital and doing things in our business that are better. And so I think you're absolutely right. And that was the premise of why we started building a bigger thing, was that, you know, we felt that larger, more complex organizations will need more help and more consulting or more experts or things like that. And it's bearing out. So I think we
will need to. I mean, in the industry, that expert comments right there, because you know, this one always drives me crazy. All the industry, everyone's, you know, very cachet said, you know, well, you know, 20% of the agents are going to do 80% of the work and, you know, the business, and we've heard this and everyone stops. But for me, you know, they haven't finished that picture. You can go up one more layer, and 20% of the population is going to own 80% of real estate. And the sophistication of the real estate transactions in and out of generational money, in between trying to take advantage of different stock elements and moving, whether from liquidity basis on properties to long-term hold, we're gonna have to, and great, right? It's gonna take more pros on it, but transactions are gonna get more sophisticated and mixed, and we got to get rid of some of our organized real estate barriers. That's a whole nother subject. Kelly, put it on the list.
Here we go.
We have a list out of this call. It's great. So you know what's excellent, Gretchen? I go after this meeting, I go next to our executive meeting. One of my topics is, what are some of the things that we should talk about on these Fireside Friday chats? And I think you've given us a half a dozen of these.
Right, we've got some topics.
I have to tell you, it would be interesting to see what, I certainly have my opinion, but it'd be interesting to see what the general agent population thought, how their local association as well as their state association handled the whole pandemic. Because
yeah.
It might be interesting to know.
Yeah, it might be interesting to know. Some have done better than others. Some have done differently than others. So
a lot of, holy cow.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah. No, I hear that. That's a great line of inquiry. Great line of inquiry.
Absolutely.
So we're coming almost to the end of our time together. I don't know about you, Kelly, but this is an amazing conversation. So I could do this all day.
We've learned so much.
We have been asking if there, for the group that is following on the theme this month, about other women leaders that you admire or that you learn from or that you follow and pay attention to. And we're just curious if you could share some people that you think, we should pay attention to as an industry or.
Oh, shoot. I'm gonna have to there's so many. I took your question differently, which I was gonna tell a secret on, which I probably still will, but.
Well, we'll take it any way you've interpreted it, Gretchen.
All right, good. For me, besides giving the shout out to Loretta Parker, my first broker, a woman I met inside there, and this kind of sets the groundwork of who my heroes are. Her name was Betty Flynn, and she's passed. And she was the one that opened my eyes and exposed to buying a property a year. And she was so instrumental in my whole life in regard to me hearing that. And so other folks, there are a lot of women that are out right now buying, and I love that, and encouraging and partnering, and that's where I would put some energy. I would think overall my heroes in watching people, because I've got a catbird seat on seeing people. My heroes are single moms. Oh my goodness. I had a mom and dad, and I just don't even know. So single moms, and my guilty, and I'm being sincere, and I'm going to get hate mail. I have a real respect for Taylor Swift. So I do.
I do too.
All right, Cal.
Her latest album is.
I'm on board.
It's really good.
Yes,
she's good. She's highly talented.
No.
So investors, I want to, I always say, listen, the reality is that we will, whatever the circumstances, whatever the industry, whatever it is what I know. One of the things my dad taught me is, he or she who has the gold. And so for me, my parting word would be to women out there is, as much as you can buy, let's bring a bigger purse to the table. And somehow the bigger purse correlates to a bigger voice. So let's just bring our own big old bags. We could just do big old Louis in, sit ourselves down.
Yes, ma'am.
And we'd be invited to the party. So
that's so awesome.
Awesome. Well, Gretchen, love that. Love your closing thought there. That's terrific. I think that what I've taken away from this call is that it's so refreshing to talk to leaders we don't get to spend as much time as we'd like with, and that, just getting a sense of you and your personality and what you brought to your organization is thoroughly enjoyable. And thank you very much for spending some of that time with us. And Kelly, any closing thoughts from you?
Well, I hadn't met Gretchen before, so I feel honored to have gotten to know you better. And I really appreciate your passion determination. And then what I really noticed is how much you care and you have that heart, and it's such a gift because you just say it how it is and I can feel it. And so I'm glad to have met you, and thank you for your time. It's really great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for spending some time with us. Stay out of the fires. I hope
Thank
you stay
you.
safe.
Yes.
Everyone
Okay.
stay safe. Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate the opportunity.
Good
You
to
bet.
see you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Talk to you
Bye,
next week.
Bye, guys.